Grenada, the stage is set. Brilliant minds, fresh perspectives. It's more than competition. It's confidence, creativity, and critical thinking in action. The Grenlec Debates, powering bright ideas.
You're watching the 2025 Grenlec Debates. We are in the fourth round of competition, the semi-finals. 4 schools, 1 goal, and a place in the finals up for grabs. Following this round, we will know which of the remaining teams will be our finalists. I am your host and former Grenlec debater, Ambrosia Charles. Remember, these debates are impromptu. The students are given the broad theme to research prior to the match. Then, on match day, they randomly select their motions and are given 30 minutes to prepare their presentation without assistance from their teachers or coaches. The theme for this round is Youth Violence and the Law. This match is between the Anglican High School and St. Joseph's Convent St. George. The motion is, be it resolved that in Grenada, community programs and education are more effective than government legislation in ending violence.
When the systems fail to guide, the streets start to teach. A pleasant morning to Madam Chair, honorable judges, worthy opponents, all. Today, we are participating in the battle of the minds of ideas, in which we, the proposition, support the moot, be it resolved that in Grenada community programs and education are more effective than government legislation in ending violence. As the first speaker, I will define key terms pertaining to the moot and outline how communities and education are the foundation. My second speaker will further elaborate on the flaws of government legislation. Our POI and rebuttal will respectively clarify any misconceptions and refute any preposterous claims made by the proposition. The following definitions come from Collins Dictionary. Community programs refers to a group of individuals that work together in a district with a structured system to achieve goals and societal values. Effective refers to the production of a desired result, according to Collins Dictionary. The use of violence is the use of physical or emotional force to injure, abuse, damage, or destroy. And government legislation are laws or frameworks that are developed by the executive policy. Community programs and education are more effective at ending youth violence. Community programs and education tackle violence at the root, the homes, the communities. An example of this is the Adventist youth, who are youth who gather to speak about their issues, and this is providing a safe space. The core of violence in Grenada starts at the community and household level. Evidence of this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which states that security and safety must be satisfied before anything else. Our homes don't provide this, the homes of the offenders. According to Mr. Shroud, a social worker at His Majesty's prison, the greatest cause of violence in Grenada is dysfunctional families. My worthy opponents, how can government legislations be more effective if they don't know the community, they don't know the people, they don't know the issues? Schools, churches, programs like the Adventist Youth, the community centers, after-school programs, they are the foundation. Additionally, education provides persons the values and morals to guide them in their life, and they also help them to express themselves better. When the systems fail to guide, the streets start to teach. Honorable judges, the fact that community programs and education are the foundation of one's life is why it is more effective at ending youth violence. I thank you.
The judge awaits, the jury listens, and justice itself hangs in the balance. Honorable Chair, worthy opponents, dear audience, a pleasant day to all. Today, this stage is our courtroom. And what stands on trial? Be it resolved that in Grenada, community programs and education are more effective than government legislation in ending violence. As first counselor of the rightful opposition, it is both my duty and privilege to clearly define key terms of the moot, outline our case, and present the first line of arguments in support of our stance. Community leaders cannot enforce the law. And two, not all communities have capable leaders. My co-counsel will follow, clearly outlining 3 further contentions in unwavering support of our stance. Prevention works most effectively when combined with enforcement. The hybrid strategies achieve the most effective results, and collaboration of all 3 aspects is the most effective route to end violence. The following definitions are according to the Webster's Dictionary. More, in greater number or quantity. Effective, making a certain thing happen or bringing about the result wanted. Education, the bringing up or training as of a child. Violence, force used to cause an injury or damage. Community, a society of people having common rights. End, to conclude. Government legislation, responsible for law enforcement, social welfare, education, and public safety. Contention number 1. Community leaders cannot enforce the law. Leaders lack legal authority. They cannot arrest, detain, or prosecute offenders. The UNODC Caribbean Survey 2022 found that neighborhoods relying solely on mediation programs had a 15% more unresolved violent incidents than areas with police patrols. Guidance alone cannot hold offenders accountable. Without reinforcement, communities are at risk for repeat crimes. Police provides both deterrence and justice, 2 things community leaders cannot replicate. Without oversight, local leaders may act inconsistently or even escalate conflict. The UNODC 2021 study revealed 30% of unsupervised community committees inadvertently heightened tensions, demonstrating the danger of relying solely on local leadership. Contention number 2, not all community leaders are capable leaders. Some communities may lack the social cohesion or even experience to produce effective leaders. The Caribbean Youth Development Report 2022 shows that in low-income areas, over 40% of the youth mentorship programs fail due to untrained or unavailable leaders. Relying on leaders in these communities leaves gaps in safety. Without trained, capable leaders in every area, the more effective claim collapses. Government legislation provides consistent protection in every community. I thank you.
Good morning, honorable judges, worthy opponents all. The definitions posed by the opposition are too narrow and fail to encompass the broad scope of the motion. Therefore, I reinforce the definitions put forward by my first speaker, which clearly supports our firm agreement with the motion. Be it resolved that in Grenada, community programs and education are more effective than government legislation in ending violence. Education is the fundamental backbone of an individual, of a society, of a country like Grenada. The main institution to do this is schools, which children are enrolled in at the early age of 3. Worthy opponents, can they read laws and regulations at that time? No, but they are taught right from wrong. They are taught what not to do. This alone highlights why my team and I believe community programs and education is more effective in ending violence. When you know better, you do better. Secondly, government legislation is costly and personal development, and we are relying on personnel we don't have. Colonel Rodney from the Guelph police station stated that the police station is understaffed. This does not only affect Guelph, but it is a nationwide issue.
Ms. Roberts, a probation officer, also stated that there is a significant lack of personnel such as social workers. No, where there is government legislation creating laws, if we do not have the adequate personnel to carry out and enforce these laws, how will the opponents, I ask you, how can it be more effective than community programs or a school which have the personnel required? Thirdly, communities are mostly responsible for accepting and allowing reintegration into society for offenders. The use of community programs and education is essential in ending violence and ensuring the decrease of second-time offenders. An example given by Ms. Maureen, a licensed officer, states that a young man, committed crimes at the early age of 13 and has been in and out of prison since. Why? Because every time he was released back in... This is why my team and I firmly believe that in Grenada, community programs and education are more effective than government legislation in ending violence. I thank you.
The defense does not oppose community programs and education. It simply rejects exclusivity. The most effective justice model is one where community programs and education work in tandem with the government legislation. Contention number 1. Prevention works only when combined with enforcement. The Caribbean Crime Prevention Initiative 2023 indicates that neighborhoods relying solely on mediation and mentorships still experience higher rates of violent incidents rather than those with police presence. While leaders can prevent behavioral issues and schools can mediate disputes, they cannot respond to escalating violence or armed crime without police and legislation. Education and community programs cannot save lives and not end crime. Contention number 2. Your Honor, a hybrid strategy achieves the most effective results. The UNODC presented a study that reported by using local leaders and police patrols, crime reduces by 45%. This shows that efficiency using communities and education along with the police will actually provide the actual results that we are all looking for. Alone, without legislation, Grenada is bound to fall into chaos. The most effective approach combines prevention and enforcement and social cohesion, guidance, and mediation, while the police and law deter and treat the crime. Your Honor and respected guest, the proposition may state that communities and education will end crime. But Your Honor, while the foundation has walls, it may crumble without the legislation. We are not stating that communities, programs, and education does not help reduce crime. We are simply stating that without the legal systems being implemented with them, crime will never actually end. Your Honor, the defense rises on behalf of Synergy to not to argue that government legislation is more effective, but to object the proposition's sweeping claim that community programs and education is actually more effective. The defense submits that this is an overestimation and it is unsupported by societal idealism. In this courtroom of ideas, we call for a merger of community programs, education, and the legislation. The prosecution rests. I thank you.
My worthy opponent, the moot says ending violence. However, community programs and education are mainly preventative measures. Do you care to clarify your stance?
Worthy opponent, information provided by Sharice Noel, a long-term lawyer, we have learned that there is no end to violence. We cannot end violence on a whole, as violence is inevitable. What we are saying is that that community programs and education are more effective than government legislation in bringing us closer to ending crime or reducing crime.
Thank you, my worthy opponent. My worthy opponent, do you agree that government legislation plays a role in ending violence?
Worthy opponent, we do agree that government
Thank you,
legislation...
my worthy opponent. I have a question
Will the
that you will
opponent
be
may I
able
have a
to
chance to
expound
finish
later.
my answer?
My worthy opponent, I have a follow-up question where you can expound on your answer. Therefore, my worthy opponent, why is your stance opposed to both working together to end violence?
With the opponent, as I was saying, we do believe that government legislation plays a part. However, our stance is that community programs and education play a more important part in ending violence.
My worthy opponent, so why is it if government legislation plays a role in ending violence and community programs along with education, why not integrate the three methods?
With the opponent, we never said we are not excluding government legislation. However, I will say again, we are saying that community programs and education have a bigger part to play. As my first speaker said, the community is what instills morals and values and these lifelong lessons into individuals.
Thank you, my worthy opponent. What statistical evidence do you have to support your claim that the government doesn't know the community?
With the opponent, my team and I did not state
My
that
worthy
government...
opponent, your second speaker stated that.
My worthy opponent, as I was saying, we never stated that the government does not know anything about the community. However, we are saying that the community knows its members better than anyone else and therefore are responsible for bringing them up. I thank you. With the opponent, the motion today specifies Grenada. So can you provide local statistics to support your claim?
My worthy opponent, the Caribbean Survey 2022.
My worthy opponents, what local examples do you have that prove that combined enforcement works in Grenada?
My worthy opponent, in reference to the source I just mentioned and also the UNODC, stated that community programs alone is not more effective. You need integration of community programs, education, and legislation to ensure the prevention and, I guess, closest ending to violence.
With the opponent, both your speakers spoke extensively of reactive punishment. Does your research show that this is better than preventative justice in Grenada?
My worthy opponent, my speaker spoke on the fact that prevention and reactive punishment, when worked cohesively, is the best option.
With the opponent, can you name the communities that your second speaker made mention to?
Where exactly in her speech did she mention this?
Your second speaker spoke extensively of communities where where community leaders and law enforcement work together. Can you name those communities?
My worthy opponent, the communities are not specified. They are just a part of a general study.
Can you specify the higher rates of crime in your second speaker spoke of?
My worthy opponent, the UNODC, presented a study that reported by using local leaders and police patrols, there was a 45% decrease in violence in the communities.
Thank you.
With the opponent, your second speaker insinuated that a hybrid method would end crime. However, this goes against information provided by Mrs. Cherise Noel. Can you explain this disparity?
What information did
Ms. Cherise Noel, as I stated previously, stated that crime can... Okay, I thank you.
Good morning. Your Honor, the proposition has spoken, and while confident, it crumbles at the first knock of logic. I will outline what they have displayed thus far. 1. Ignorance. 2. Assumptions and false narratives. And 3. A lack of evidence. My team and I object this motion, and as rebuttal speaker, my role is to restore balance and expose the cracks. Their first speaker had stated that the government does not know the community. Your Honor, The opponent gave no empirical evidence to back up this so-called point up. This is therefore irrelevant. Claiming that government ignores and doesn't know the community is ignorance at its finest. Is it not the communities that elect their government officials? Their argument is a cause for concern. Communities and education may be the root, but the legal systems is the soil that it upholds. Their second speaker stated that education is the backbone for use. While we believe that this is partially true, education systems alone cannot end crime, whereas it might be a preventative factor. Overall, ending crime? Definitely not. Then they claim that the community are the ones that prevent the reoffenders. But, Your Honor, the legislation provides rehabilitation systems to prevent reoffending, such as the Rehabilitation Center in Grand Bacolet. Communities may provide prevention for the crime, but the legislation is there to make sure it never happens again. In the POI, there was only assumptions. My teammates asked for statistics and were only met with opinions and false narratives. They repeatedly ignored questions and left the opposition without an actually valid answer. They spoke of an insinuation to our stance. However, insinuations are subjected to perceptions. Stating that community programs and education alone can end crimes is a false narrative and lacks depth. I thank you.
My worthy opponents, nice story, but we're here for facts, not fiction. And the fact of the matter is that neither community programs or government legislation can end violence. Violence is inevitable. However, community programs are more effective, and again I say more effective than government legislation. Good morning, all. The first speaker of the opposition hilariously asserted that community leaders cannot enforce the law, and not all communities have effective leaders. My worthy opponents, the term community refers to a group of people living in or dwelling in a region. When we talk about communities, we're not talking about one individual. We're talking about all the individuals. Not to mention, the mood states community programs, not community leaders. But government legislation, on the other hand, as my second speaker clearly quoted Cornell Rodney when he stated that governments cannot enforce proper laws as they depend on personnel, which they do not have. The second speaker of the opposition side stated that community programs and education cannot save lives and end crime. Honorable judges, crime is inevitable. Neither community programs or government legislation can end crime completely. However, community programs are more effective, and again I say more effective than government legislation. They also stated that government legislation helps to combat and solve crime after it has occurred. But my worthy opponents, I'm sure we all know of instances where crime occurs and the people in the communities step in before the police can even arrive on the sites. When the systems fail to guide, the streets start to teach. Let's also identify the fact that the proposition cannot provide local statistics. I thank you.
And the winner is the Anglican High School. Moments like these show the value of discussion, teamwork, and respect. Qualities that define the Grenlec Debates. Well done to both teams for representing their schools with such pride. To our audience, we're so pleased that you could join us for this match of the semi-finals. We invite you to join us again for a complete coverage on what's to come in 2025 Grenlec Debates. We are pleased to announce that our People's Choice Debater competition is now open, and you can help your favorite debater to win a fantastic prize. Simply visit Grenlec's Facebook page to vote.
Grenada, the stage is set. Brilliant minds, fresh perspectives. It's more than competition. It's confidence, creativity, and critical thinking in action. The Grenlec Debates, powering bright ideas.